You should know how many teaspoons are in a tablespoon. You should know how many tablespoons are in a cup. You should know how many ounces are in a pound. And you should know how many fluid ounces are in one fluid cup. Take a minute, write it down, pause me, and then we'll come back and check it. Alright, you should have 3 teaspoons in a tablespoon, 16 tablespoons in a cup, 8 ounces, 16 ounces in a pound, and 8 fluid ounces in a fluid cup. That's with liquids. Remember, when you're measuring, liquids are always done in the liquid measuring cup. Remember to get down to eye level. Make sure you got it right. Keep it on a flat surface. You shouldn't be raising it up here to check to see if it's level. With dry ingredients, things like chocolate chips, shredded cheese, flour, sugar, you should also be able to measure those, but you're using your dry measuring cups. Remember, with flour, we want to sift it and then measure, fluff it up a little bit, spoon it in gently. We don't tap, tap, tap. Also with measurement, with your brown sugar and your shortening, you need to pack it into that dry measuring cup, and that'll help you to get a good, clear measurement. Review your equipment. You have several pages of equipment. We're going to work on that in class. Convenience foods. Several of you asked about convenience foods. Convenience foods are foods that have some level of service already done to them, as opposed to scratch-made food. If we're making food from scratch or homemade food, then we're doing everything for that food at home. The biscuits we made in class were homemade. A can of biscuits or some frozen biscuits would be an example of a convenience food. It makes life easier for you. Convenience foods are great, especially if you're just learning to cook. They're usually pretty easy to prepare. The directions are on there, and they can help you get things done more quickly. Know, though, that you're going to be spending a little bit more money for convenience foods, but sometimes it's worth it to order out pizza rather than making your own pizza from scratch at home. Also know that convenience foods often contain more sugar, more salt, more preservatives, and may not be as healthy as scratch-made foods. We've talked about changing the yield. We've talked about ingredients. Make sure that you know what essential ingredients are and what non-essential ingredients are. Typically, essential ingredients are things that we would find in a recipe that we're baking, where if you monkey around with the ingredients, you may totally mess up the product. But let's say that you're making muffins and you don't have blueberries, but you have chocolate chips. Blueberries would be a non-essential ingredient. You could substitute chocolate chips for blueberries and you should be just fine. Let's make sure. A few things that you also wanted me to review with you. The temperature danger zone. I believe we talked about illnesses, but the temperature danger zone, be sure you've memorized, it's from 40 degrees Fahrenheit to 140 degrees Fahrenheit. It's a little bit different for commercial foods and restaurant cooking, but we'll get to that in foods too. The temperature danger zone is crucial to know because those are the temperature ranges that bacteria loves to grow and multiply in, and we want to try to keep food out of that temperature danger zone. We want to try to keep it either below 40 or above 140. 4 hours is your magical time. If your food has been in the danger zone 4 hours or longer, it has to hit the trash can or it's going to probably make you sick. It's not worth the risk. Make sure you review groups of people that are more at risk for foodborne illness. We've talked about infants, elderly, young children, and people who have chronic diseases or who already have a low immune system. Those people can get very, very sick from eating food that is spoiled and could land them in the hospital or lead to death. Review your substitutions. You have a chart in your notes on that. Make sure that you're clear on what can be substituted. There were a few that were a little tricky. If you have dry herbs and you're going to substitute fresh herbs, or vice versa, 1 teaspoon of dry herbs will substitute for a tablespoon of fresh. Let's say you've got parsley. You need a teaspoon of dry parsley or a tablespoon of fresh parsley out of your garden. The dry is a lot more concentrated, so you need less. If you're substituting sugar substitutes, I would just use Splenda. That works the best with baking. And with fat substitutions, remember to substitute one solid fat for another solid fat, but it gets real tricky when you try to substitute a liquid for a solid fat, such as substitute oil for margarine. That would make a big mess. Hope this review has helped. Let me know if it does on your reflection, and I'd love to try it again if it helps. Get a good night's rest and study, study.